The other issue that we wanted to speak with you about has to do with the murder, or what the minority in parliament is saying has to do with contract killings and the general security situation in the country. We've just had this statement coming from the police in the last hour. I'll share that with you before we move on to that. Now, the Ghana Police Service says it is following multiple significant leads in connection with the assassination of Hussein-Suale last Wednesday. Mr. Hussein-Suale, a member of private investigations firm Tiger IPI, and who was involved in uncovering corruption in Ghana football together with Anas Anas, was shot by assailants at Medina and has since been buried. The police last week questioned Central MP Kennedy Agyapong over a pronouncement he made about Hussein-Suale, which many say exposed him to harm. A statement released by the police in the last hour says former president of the Ghana Football Association, Mr. Hussein-Suale, has also been interrogated by a team of detectives in connection with the killing. And I'm going to read the rest of the statement to you. It says, the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service has commenced an extensive and rigorous investigation into the unfortunate killing of Mr. Hussein-Suale. A brief update of these investigations are as follows, and they talked about interrogating the Central MP. And they also go on to say that Mr. Hussein-Suale, former president of the Ghana Football Association, has also been questioned. It says the CID has and continues to interrogate other persons of interest, as well as following up on multiple significant leads. The CID urges the general public to provide information to the nearest police station or through the following police social media handles, and they share their social media handles. It goes on to say the CID commits to a thorough investigation of high integrity in this case, in particular, and all other unresolved crimes in general. Updates and outcomes of these investigations will be made known to the general public as they become available and appropriate to do so. Now, this statement coming from the police is on the heels of a call by the minority in Parliament for the arrest and prosecution of Central MP Kennedy Agyapong for pronouncements they believe make him the prime suspect in the assassination of Tiger IPI team member Hussein-Suale last Wednesday. Addressing a news conference in Parliament Monday, ranking member on the Defence and Interior Committee and Wiltshire North MP James Agaga accused the law enforcement agencies of looking on as Central MP Kennedy Agyapong flew out of the country instead of arresting him.
Mr. Agyapong appears to bear some criminal responsibility for the death of Ahmed. And he also bears criminal responsibility for instigating the public to beat up Ahmed and cause harm to Anas for monetary reward. Mr. Agyapong should have promptly been arrested and prosecuted for the public instigation of violence on the two men. This was never done. Shockingly, Mr. Agyapong was allowed to fly out of the country without being apprehended on that very day on an Emirates flight headed to Dubai and possible onward journey. The conduct of Mr. Agyapong could not have escaped the notice of law enforcement agencies and the government of President Akufo-Addo. Until date, he has not been invited by the police for questioning. We find this situation deeply worrying and uncharacteristic of a democratic and civilized country. Mr. Agyapong's conduct and the obvious lack of action by the law enforcement agencies leads to only one conclusion, that Mr. Agyapong is above the laws of Ghana and he enjoys impunity free from prosecution.
Now, whilst they say the investigations into the death of Hussein-Suale must be thoroughly investigated, the minority wants what it describes as a trend of contract killing, which is threatening safety, to end, accusing the president of being too quiet on the matter.
A noticeable trend about all the murders alluded to is that the assailants never made away with or stole any property belonging to their victims. In the circumstance, reasonable minds ought to conclude that the killings recorded in recent times are contract killings. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, ever since President Akufo-Addo became president, the security situation in the country has become very porous to the extent that Ghanaians are now living in perpetual fear. For instance, according to statistics from the Ghana Police Service, incidents of robbery cases recorded at the end of the year 2017 were 1,772 as compared to 1,397 in 2016. This figure represents 27% increase. The situation did not improve in 2018, as robbery cases alone hit 968 in the first quarter alone.
We have been gauging the opinions of Ghanaians on the assessment of the security situation in the country, and here's what they have been saying.
Authorities can do more. They need to put measures in place. Our security is supposed to beef up their work. The recent issue that happened, who are the people involved? If they can do more investigation. For instance, one of these days, I think I closed from work and I was going home, and seriously, there were guys on the motorbike who were, after me. But I was very smart, because when I saw the light, I saw that, no, these are strange people. They don't live around. So quickly, I looked smart and I balanced off the road. So I think for now, we are not all that secured.
We are not safe in Ghana, because only this week or last week, we heard of a journalist who has been killed. And for the look of things, the area boys, is it the killers? I learned they were in the area and people saw them, but they didn't do anything. So we are not safe.
We are not secured, because if people can be killed just like that, and we have a history of murders that have not been resolved, the perpetrators have not been found, and then it keeps happening. It is really very scary.
So there are security concerns, not just from the minority in parliament, but other sections. Statistics indicate armed robbery cases increased from 1,397 in 2016 as against 1,772 in 2017, representing a 27% increase. Security analyst Mr. Suate is back via Skype with us. Now, how justifiable are the concerns from the minority in the section of the public, as you heard, about the security situation in the country?
Okay, so let's separate the minority from ordinary people that you interview, because, of course, politicians also have their prime intention gaining political points. Sometimes the facts are presented in particular light in ordinary people. So let's separate the two. Let me focus first on the end statement. When you look at the first time they used the word contract killing, that really, it was in quotes. Now, when you put such words in quotes, it means, at least in the context in which it's being presented, it has specific meaning. But then the last paragraph of the same statement used the word contract killing without putting it in quotes. That connotes something totally different. It connotes contract killing as you and I know that I assassin who don't just kill random, but who are to kill for specific purposes. But when it comes to assessing the security situation, usually police is an urban phenomenon. It's police phenomenon. And the sample size is mainly people from urban sections. So we should also careful when we take urban security sense and then nationalize it. Yes, there is still a legitimate point there, whether it is urban or rural, whether they have different priority needs. They are still Ghanaians. And one thing that the state has to make sure that even if it's psychological, the state and the police should respond to the security needs of people. Now, let me end on this. You need the systematic evidence to show that, for example, the number of homicides have gone up, and then they intend a consequence on people's psychological well-being. But in practice, sometimes you realize that the statistics might be the same, but people's sense of security and safety might change. And when it changes, the state would have to respond to it.
All right, so we're looking at, you're talking about evidence. We're looking at the figures that have been produced by the police themselves, and there's an indication that indeed there's been an increase in the number of cases, and we're comparing 2016 and 2017.
Okay, there's been increase in what? Homicide?
No, we're talking about robbery, armed robbery. So because we don't have the homicide figures, that's why we're using, and that's what the statistics that the minority cited.
Oh, okay. So it's gone up. In other words, when you compare January 2015, January 2017, January 2019, it's gone up.
The figures that we have, we're comparing 2016 and 2017. In 2016, we had
what in 2016? What is it? January 2016? Or
no, the entire 2016, the whole year. 1,397 for 2016, and then 1,772 in 2017.
But then, I don't understand that, because you cannot compare 12 months with 1 month, because we are just in January. So you cannot use January for 2019 and compare it with the whole of 2017, the whole of 2015. But okay, let's not go into that statistical discussions. But yes, when people do not feel safe, it's important for the state to respond. And I think that I really appreciate what the minority is doing currently, if it specifically means the oversight and asking government and security agencies to make sure that they respond to particular security issues of particular constituencies. And I think that's fantastic. Right. But of course, the political points, and that is where the danger lies. If you over-politicize security issues, and sometimes it has long and short-term repercussions. For example, when people are in power, the way police service is different when they are out of power. And when they go back to power, they go back to the situation that were criticized. Now, what that actually leads to is that we delegitimize the police. In other words, we increase the mistrust that people have the police service. And when we do that, the information that people, for example, have to give to the police would not come. And of course, the police also have to do in-house claim. But the repercussion is there. But it's right. The one thing I want to say quickly, you talked about the kidnapping. It has a relationship with this feeling, because you see, in Nigeria, sometimes people kidnap, you will pay ransom, but your loved one will be killed, because most of the time those who kidnap are close relationship victims. And I think that we think separate this killing, kidnapping. We should see the two as mutually reinforcing in dimensions that it's constant attention to the media, civil society, parliament, particularly, led Committee on Defense and Interior.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Suate. Emmanuel Suate is a security analyst, and he joined us to give us an analysis on recent happenings in the country. We're taking